The alarm blared at 5:30 a.m., a harsh buzz that yanked Eddie Torres from a dream about fishing with his dad. He groaned, rolling out of bed in his one-bedroom apartment, the linoleum cold under his feet. At 35, Eddie was a construction laborer, his body a map of aches from years of hauling lumber and swinging hammers. Today was no different. Another day on the job, another day building something that would outlast him. He pulled on a flannel shirt, grabbed his lunchbox, and headed out into the pre-dawn chill of Riverton, a small city trying to claw its way back from hard times. The site was a half-mile from downtown, a vacant lot where the new Riverton Community Center was taking shape. It wasn't a skyscraper or a fancy mall, just a modest brick building with a gym, classrooms, and a kitchen meant to give kids and families a place to gather. For Eddie and his crew, it was a job, $22 an hour, 6 days a week, with overtime if they were lucky. But it was also a chance to leave a mark on the town they called home. Eddie's pickup rumbled into the lot at 6:45 a.m., joining a cluster of beat-up trucks and SUVs. The crew was already there, sipping coffee from thermoses, their breath visible in the crisp October air. There was Sal, the burly mason with a penchant for bad puns. Tina, a wiry electrician who swore like a sailor. And Ray, a lanky carpenter pushing 60, who'd seen every boom and bust Riverton had to offer. Rounding out the team was Kayla, a 22-year-old apprentice still learning to read blueprints, her enthusiasm a bright spot on gray mornings. "Morning, Eddie," Sal called, tossing him a hard hat. "Ready to make some magic with these bricks?" Eddie caught the hat, grinning. "Only if you stop calling that mortar mix magic sauce." The crew laughed, the sound cutting through the clatter of a nearby bulldozer. Their foreman, Carla, a no-nonsense woman with a clipboard and a voice like a drill sergeant, waved them over. "All right, clowns, let's move. We're laying block on the east wall today, and the electrician's prepping conduit. Weather's good, so no excuses. Let's keep it tight." Eddie nodded, pulling on his gloves. He liked Carla. She was fair, didn't play favorites, and knew the job inside out. The community center was her baby, a project she'd fought for when the city council wanted to sell the lot to a chain store. For Eddie, it was just work, but he respected her passion. In a town where factories had shuttered and storefronts sat empty, a place like this mattered. The first task was the east wall, a stretch of concrete block that would form the gym's exterior. Eddie and Sal worked as a team, Sal mixing mortar in a wheelbarrow, while Eddie laid the blocks, his trowel smoothing the gray sludge with practiced flicks. The work was repetitive. Scoop, spread, place, tap. But there was a rhythm to it, a quiet satisfaction in seeing the wall rise, course by course. "Ever think about doing something else?" Sal asked, wiping sweat from his brow. His hands were rough, calloused from decades of masonry, but his eyes were sharp, always probing. Eddie shrugged, setting a block. "Like what? Office job? I'd go nuts staring at a screen all day." Sal chuckled. "Fair. Just saying, this gig's hell on the body. My knees are shot, and I'm not even 50. Eddie didn't reply, but he felt the truth in his own joints, the dull ache in his lower back. He'd started in construction at 19, fresh out of high school, following his dad into the trade. It was steady work, paid the bills, let him buy a truck and a ring for his ex, Maria, before things fell apart. Now single and living paycheck to paycheck. He wondered if the job was all he'd ever have, but wondering didn't pay the rent. so he kept laying blocks, the mortar cool against his fingers. Across the site, Tina was up a ladder, running conduit pipes for the electrical system. She sang off-key to a rock song blasting from her portable speaker, ignoring Kayla's giggles. "Laugh all you want, kid," Tina called. "This is art. You'll get it when you're wiring your first panel." Kayla, kneeling to mark measurements on a stud, rolled her eyes but smiled. She was the newest hire, eager but green, often asking Eddie for help with basic tasks. He didn't mind. She reminded him of himself at that age, all nerves and ambition. "Eddie, how do you know where to put the anchor bolts?" she asked, holding up a blueprint. He walked over, squinting at the paper. "See these lines? They mark the footing. Bolts go every 6 feet, right on center. Measure twice, drill once." She nodded, scribbling a note. "Thanks. I owe you one. You owe me a coffee," he said, winking. The crew looked out for each other. Coffee runs, shared lunches, a hand when someone's truck wouldn't start. It wasn't just a job, it was a tribe. Weeks passed, the community center taking shape under the crew's hands. The foundation was done, the walls climbing steadily, the roof trusses waiting to be hoisted. Eddie's days blurred into a cycle of sweat and sawdust. Arrive at dawn, work until dusk, grab a burger at the diner, crash into bed. Sundays were his only break, spent sleeping in or watching football with his neighbor, Pete. The work was grueling, especially as winter loomed. Rain turned the site into a muddy swamp, slowing progress. One morning, a delivery of lumber arrived waterlogged, useless for framing. Carla cursed, pacing the trailer, while the crew waited for a replacement. "This is what happens when you go with the cheapest supplier," she muttered, loud enough for Eddie to hear. He sympathized, but stayed quiet. The budget was tight, $3.5 million, cobbled together from grants and city funds. Corners were cut, not on safety, but on materials and timelines. The crew felt it. Overtime was scarce. Equipment broke down, and the pressure to finish by spring was relentless. Still, they pushed on, driven by pride and paychecks. Tina faced her own battles. Her daughter, Lily, was 10, and childcare was a constant juggle. One afternoon, she got a call from Lily's school. Fever. Needed to be picked up. Tina hesitated, her eyes on the half-wired panel. "Carla, I gotta go. I'll make up the hours." Carla nodded, her face softening. "Take care of your kid. We'll cover you." Eddie and Ray picked up the slack, running extra conduit until Tina returned the next day. Apologetic, but grateful. "You guys are lifesavers," she said, handing Eddie a coffee. "Lily's fine, just a bug." "Anytime," Eddie said, meaning it. He'd never had kids, but he got it. Family came first, even if it meant longer hours for the crew. Ray, the oldest, was the crew's unofficial historian. Over lunch, he'd spin tales of Riverton's past, building the old high school in the 80s, the factory that closed when he was 40, the flood that nearly wiped out downtown. "This center's small potatoes," he said, chewing a sandwich. "But it's honest work. Means something to the kids who'll use it." Eddie listened, his respect for Ray deepening. The man had no family left, just a rented room and a cat. But he showed up every day, his hands steady despite arthritis. Eddie wondered if that would be him in 25 years, alone, tethered to the job. The thought lingered, heavy as the bricks he carried. Trouble hit in December, when a cold snap froze the ground and tempers flared. The crew was framing the interior walls, their breath visible in the unheated structure. Sal slipped on ice, twisting his ankle, and was out for a week. The replacement mason, a temp named Greg, was sloppy, his mortar joints uneven, forcing Eddie to redo half a wall. Worse, the city inspector flagged a section of Tina's wiring, citing code violations. It was a minor fix, but the delay cost a day, and Carla got an earful from the project manager. "We're behind, and the council's watching," she told the crew, her voice tight. "No more mistakes." The pressure boiled. Over one frigid morning, Kayla, rushing to finish a stud wall, mismeasured a cut, wasting a sheet of plywood. Ray, usually patient, snapped, "Slow down, kid. You're costing us time we don't have." Kayla's face reddened, her eyes glistening. "I'm trying, okay? I'm not perfect." Eddie stepped in, his voice calm. "Easy, Ray. She's learning. We've all botched a cut." Ray sighed, rubbing his neck. "Yeah, I know. Sorry, Kayla. It's a rough week." Kayla nodded, brushing away a tear, and Eddie handed her a tape measure. "Let's do it together. Measure twice, right?" The moment passed, but it left a mark. The crew was tired, stretched thin by deadlines, and the cold. Eddie felt it too. His back screamed after lifting rebar, and Maria's texts about unpaid alimony didn't help. He started skipping the diner, eating canned soup to save cash. The job was his lifeline, but it was also a weight, and he wasn't sure how much longer he could carry it. Relief came unexpectedly, in the form of community support. Word spread about the center, and locals began showing up with coffee, donuts, even homemade tamales. A high school class visited, the kids wide-eyed as Ray explained how to square a frame. "You're building our future," their teacher said, and Eddie felt a flicker of pride. The crew rallied, their bond tightening. Tina organized a potluck lunch, everyone bringing a dish: Eddie's chili, Sal's pasta salad, Kayla's lopsided brownies. They ate in the half-finished gym, laughing over Ray's story of falling into a mud pit in '95. Carla joined them, her usual scowl replaced by a smile. "You're a good crew," she said. "Don't let the suits forget it." Eddie took it to heart. He started mentoring Kayla more, teaching her to use a level and read load-bearing specs. She soaked it up, her confidence growing. "I want to be like you," she said one day, adjusting her hard hat. "You make it look easy." He laughed, surprised. "It's not easy, but it's worth it. Keep at it. You'll be running your own crew someday." Sal returned, his ankle healed, and the east wall was finished, its bricks gleaming under a fresh coat of sealant. Tina fixed the wiring, passing inspection with a grin. Ray, softer, after his outburst, gave Kayla a carpenter's pencil, a small gesture that made her beam. Eddie watched it all, realizing the job wasn't just about the building. It was about the people, the small victories that kept them going. By March, the center was nearly done. The roof was on, the windows installed, the interior painted in warm beiges and blues. Eddie and Sal laid the final bricks for the entrance, a curved arch Carla had insisted on. "Makes it welcoming," she said, and Eddie agreed. It gave the place character, like a handshake from the town. The last week was a blur of finishing touches. Tiling the kitchen, hanging lights, planting shrubs in the courtyard. Eddie worked alongside Tina, installing baseboards, their banter light despite the long hours. "You ever think about what's next?" she asked, cutting a miter joint. "After this job?" He paused, the question hitting deeper than he expected. "Another site, probably. Maybe a foreman gig if I'm lucky. You?" "Want to start my own electrical business," she said, her eyes bright. "Be my own boss, set my own hours. For Lily, you know?" Eddie nodded, impressed. You'll do it. You're tougher than half the guys out here. The final day came quietly. No ceremony, just a signed-off inspection and a handshake from Carla. You made this happen, she told the crew, her voice thick. Riverton owes you. They stood in the courtyard, the center complete, a sturdy, unpretentious building that felt like it belonged. Eddie ran his hand over the brick arch, the mortar smooth under his fingers. He thought of his dad, who'd died when Eddie was 25, and wished he could have seen this. Not bad, huh? He said to no one, his voice soft. The crew scattered to new jobs, warehouses, strip malls, a bridge repair upstate. Eddie landed a gig on a school renovation. Same pay, same grind, but something had shifted. The community center job had reminded him why he started. Not just for the paycheck, but for the chance to build something real, something that mattered. He stayed in touch with the crew. Tina invited him to Lily's birthday, where Sal embarrassed himself with a karaoke rendition of Sweet Caroline. Kayla sent him a photo of her first solo framing job, her grin wide under her hard hat. Ray, slowing down, talked about retiring, but showed up for beers every Friday, his stories never running dry. One Saturday, Eddie visited the community center, now open and alive with kids playing basketball, parents chatting in the kitchen, a mural on the gym wall, painted by local teens, thanked the crew by name: Eddie Torres, Sal Russo, Tina Marquez, Ray Coleman, Kayla Nguyen. He stood there, his throat tight, and realized this was enough. The aches, the long days, the uncertainty. It was worth it for moments like this. Back in his truck, Eddie turned on the radio, a country song about home filling the cab. He didn't know what the next job would bring, but he knew he'd show up, hammer in hand, ready to build again. For Riverton, for the crew, for himself.